You're crouched in tall grass, 30 feet from an animal built like a delivery truck. It hasn't noticed you yet. It's still eating. Its shoulder is higher than your head. The horns on its skull are longer than your forearm. In your hand, you have a stick, a rock, and some cord holding them together. Tonight's meal doesn't happen from here. You have to close the gap, walk into range of those horns, plant your feet, drive the stone in hard enough to matter. Get it right, and your family eats for a week. Get it wrong, and there is no second attempt. A shattered leg out here is a slow way to die. A deep wound can mean the same thing. There is no doctor, no medicine, no rescue. For almost the entire span of human existence, this was the deal. Meat cost proximity. Every meal was a bet placed with your own body. But over hundreds of thousands of years, humans kept changing that bet. First, they threw farther. Then they made better spears. Then they added stone. Then they found ways to attack from even farther away. And eventually, they created something that completely changed the rules. A weapon that allowed you to kill without ever getting close enough to be killed yourself. The strange thing is, the story begins before the weapon even existed. You are not holding a weapon. You are one, and you don't know it. Watch a chimpanzee throw a rock. Chimpanzees are incredibly strong. They can produce far more raw upper body force than humans. But when it comes to throwing accurately and quickly, humans are strangely good at it. Even an untrained human can throw surprisingly fast. That shouldn't happen. If strength were the main factor, the chimpanzee should win. But throwing isn't just about strength. It's about storing energy. Pull your arm backward, and your shoulder, tendons, and ligaments stretch like a loaded spring. Your torso twists. Your hips rotate. Your shoulder follows. Then everything snaps forward. The stored energy moves through your body, from your legs and hips, through your torso, shoulder, elbow, and wrist, until it reaches your hand. Your body has essentially become a biological throwing machine. And the important part is that these changes appeared incredibly early. Roughly 2 million years ago, our ancestors already had many of the skeletal features that make powerful throwing possible. Long before modern weapons, long before metal, long before cities, long before writing, the human body was being shaped for a skill that would eventually become one of the most important abilities on Earth. Throwing something accurately at another living thing. Which raises a strange question. If humans were already built to throw, what were they throwing? For that answer, we have to jump forward hundreds of thousands of years. You're standing beside a shallow lake. You're holding a spear. But this isn't just a sharpened branch. The wood has been selected carefully. The shaft is straight. The tip is dense. The weight is concentrated toward the front. Someone made this deliberately. They didn't just pick up a stick and sharpen it. They understood that the way the weapon was shaped affected how it moved through the air. In the 1990s, coal miners near Schöningen, Germany, uncovered something extraordinary. Buried in ancient lakebed mud were wooden spears roughly 300,000 years old. Wood almost never survives for that long, but the waterlogged, oxygen-poor mud had preserved them. And when researchers examined them, they found something surprising. These weren't random pieces of wood. They were carefully designed hunting weapons. The shafts had been shaped. The surfaces had been worked. The weight had been positioned toward the front. And nearby were the remains of horses that had been butchered repeatedly. This wasn't a one-time event. People had returned to the same place because the hunting method worked. Researchers later built replicas of the spears and tested them with trained throwers. The results showed that these ancient weapons could be thrown accurately across a clearing. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, humans could already attack prey from a distance. But the wooden spear had a problem. Wood can only do so much. Against thick hide and heavy muscle, a wooden point can crush, bend, or slide instead of cutting deeply. So humans found another solution: stone. At Kathu Pan in South Africa, researchers discovered stone points dating back roughly 500,000 years. These weren't simply cutting tools. The damage on some of them suggested they had been used as projectile points. They were designed to fit into wooden shafts. Think about what that means. Someone had to find suitable stone, shape it, attach it to wood, and make sure the connection could survive a violent impact. One solution involved an adhesive made from birch bark. The bark was heated under controlled conditions until it produced a strong black resin. Too much heat, and the material was ruined. Too little, and it wasn't strong enough. Someone had to understand the process. And remember it. There were no written instructions, no diagrams, no chemistry textbooks, just knowledge passed from person to person. And now the weapon had something a wooden spear couldn't provide: a sharp cutting edge that changed the way the weapon worked. A wooden point mostly pushes tissue apart. A sharp stone edge cuts it. That means blood vessels can be severed instead of simply pushed aside. The animal doesn't necessarily need to be knocked down instantly. The wound can do the work. The hunter can follow, track the blood, wait, and let the animal weaken. But there was still a huge problem. You still had to get close, and that was dangerous. dangerous. Neanderthal skeletons tell us just how dangerous it could be. Many Neanderthal remains show serious injuries concentrated around the head, neck, shoulders, and upper body. Broken ribs, fractured arms, damaged shoulders, injuries that healed, only to be followed by more injuries later. Researchers compared these patterns with injuries in modern populations. One surprisingly close match was rodeo riders. Not because Neanderthals were riding animals, but because both groups repeatedly collided with large animals at close range. That tells us something uncomfortable about ancient hunting. Even when the hunters succeeded, they could still get hurt. Imagine hunting a large animal with a spear. You have to get close enough to hit it, but close enough means the animal can hit you too. One mistake could break a bone. One bad step could destroy your leg. One unlucky movement could end your ability to hunt. So humans needed another breakthrough. Not a stronger spear, a way to increase the distance. One of the simplest solutions was a small device that acted like an extra joint on your arm. A spear thrower. You place a light dart against a small hook. Then you throw the entire device. The lever adds length to your throwing motion. Your arm becomes longer for that final instant, and the dart leaves your hand much faster than your bare arm could manage. Suddenly, the effective range increases. The impact becomes stronger, and you don't need to become stronger yourself. The tool does the work. Ancient examples made from bone and antler survive from Ice Age Europe. Some are beautifully decorated. Imagine that. A weapon designed to kill, made carefully enough that someone decided to decorate it. But the spear thrower created another problem. The throwing motion is large. You have to stand. You have to swing. Your body becomes visible, and against an animal that is watching the horizon, that movement can be enough to ruin the hunt. So humans needed something quieter, something smaller, something that could be fired without exposing the entire body. And eventually, they built the bow. Take a flexible piece of wood, bend it, attach a string. Now you have a simple machine that stores energy. When you draw the string backward, your muscles slowly store energy in the bent wood. When you release it, that energy comes out almost instantly. The bow doesn't need to make your muscles stronger. It stores your strength, then releases it faster than your body can. And suddenly, almost everything changes. You can shoot from a crouch. You can shoot from behind cover. You can remain still until the last moment. You don't need a huge throwing motion. You don't need to walk toward the animal. You can carry many arrows because they are light. And you can shoot again. The bow solves the biggest problem that every earlier weapon had: distance. But there was another problem. The arrow itself is incredibly light, and light projectiles struggle against very large animals. A thin arrow can penetrate flesh, but against a massive animal, penetration alone may not be enough. So humans found another way to make the arrow deadly. They stopped asking the arrow to kill through force. They made it deliver something else, something that could kill from inside. Before we get there, understand how much engineering went into the arrow itself. The arrowhead was only one part. The shaft had to be straight, but not simply straight. It had to bend in the right way. Too stiff, and it wouldn't respond properly to the bow. Too flexible, and it would wobble through the air. The feathers at the back helped stabilize it. The notch had to fit the string, and the whole thing had to fly consistently. Ancient arrow shafts discovered in northern Europe show just how advanced this technology became. These weren't crude sticks. They were carefully made weapons. The delivery system was complete. A bow stored energy. The string released it. The shaft carried the projectile. The feathers stabilized its flight, and the point entered the target. But for a huge animal, that still might not be enough. That's where poison enters the story. In a cave near the border of South Africa and Eswatini, researchers discovered a small polished bone object dating back tens of thousands of years. Residue on the object suggested it had been used with toxic plant material. Similar techniques were later used by Kalahari hunters who applied toxins to arrows. And the important thing was that the arrow didn't need to kill immediately. It only needed to deliver the poison. After that, the hunter could walk away. Imagine what that changes. You hit an animal, then you leave. You track it. You follow its movements. You wait. You sleep. You continue tracking. The animal may travel for hours, but eventually, the poison takes effect, and you find it. You didn't overpower the animal. You didn't wrestle it. You didn't need to chase it down. You simply put something deadly inside its body and waited. That is a completely different kind of hunting. The hunter is no longer part of the physical struggle. The weapon has separated the act of attacking from the act of killing, and that principle becomes even more powerful when humans turn the weapon against each other. Around 13,000 years ago, people in North America were using distinctive stone points. Some have been found inside the bones of mammoths. And around the same broad period, many of the continent's largest animals disappeared. Mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, native horses, camels, entire groups of enormous animals vanished. Scientists still debate exactly how much human hunting contributed compared with climate change? The answer may be both. But there's something important here. These animals had not evolved alongside humans. They didn't necessarily recognize us as a major threat. A small upright creature standing in the distance didn't look like the predators they had spent millions of years learning to fear. And by the time they learned what humans could do, it may have been too late. The weapon had changed the balance between humans and animals. But humans didn't stop there. Eventually, the projectile became a weapon against other humans. At Jebel Sahaba in the Nile Valley, archaeologists found dozens of people who lived roughly 13,000 years ago. Many had stone points or fragments embedded in their bones. Some had multiple injuries. Some wounds had healed. Others were fatal. These weren't just accidents. They were evidence of repeated violence. At Nataruk in Kenya, researchers found another group dating back roughly 10,000 years. There were skull injuries, broken bones, and projectile points. Some of the obsidian used to make those weapons had come from somewhere else. The people involved had carried the material with them. And then there is the famous frozen man found in the Alps. He lived roughly 5,300 years ago. For years, scientists thought he had simply died from exposure. Then imaging revealed something else. A stone arrowhead was lodged in his shoulder. The arrow had entered from behind and below. It damaged a major artery. He likely died within minutes. Whoever shot him didn't need to stand in front of him, didn't need to wrestle him, didn't need to face him. The attack could come from a distance, and the victim might not even know where it came from. That is the real revolution. Before projectile weapons became advanced, killing someone meant getting close. And if you got close, they could hurt you too. Strength mattered, size mattered, courage mattered, the willingness to risk your own body mattered. But distance changes the equation. A person 50 meters away can kill you without touching you. You can't overpower distance. You can't intimidate it. You can't fight back against something you can't even see. And that changes warfare. Violence becomes something that can be planned, something that can happen from cover, something that can be carried out without direct contact. So what was the deadliest weapon ancient humans ever created? It wasn't the biggest spear. It wasn't the sharpest stone. It wasn't even the bow by itself. It was the combination of distance, accuracy, and something deadly carried by the projectile. The weapon became deadly because it removed the risk from the person using it. That is the real invention. Not simply the ability to kill, but the ability to kill without putting your own life into the trade. And once humans discovered that idea, it never disappeared. The weapons changed. The distances increased. The projectiles became faster. The targets moved farther away. But the principle remained the same. More range, less exposure, more distance between the person making the decision and the person who pays the price. The rifle follows the same idea. The missile follows the same idea. The drone follows the same idea. And it all traces back to something incredibly simple. A person crouched in tall grass. A bent piece of wood. A string. A sharp point. And enough patience to wait for the weapon to finish the job. They discovered the rule a very long time ago. The farther away you can stand, the less you have to risk. And humans have spent thousands of years finding new ways to stand a little farther back.